there's a phrase for it. But very good.
I think before we start, and let's introduce everybody.
Great idea.
Yeah. Mr. Dan, introduce. You know everybody.
Okay, he's a veteran. He's a veteran of my newspaper circle. Yeah, he published the newspaper more than 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And
I just still receive your email to my email to newspaper.
Oh, good.
I still receive.
Our newspaper
His expertise
started in 1990.
also reporter. So
And I got to meet
all
Grace.
of them are qualified,
Some
very important person in the community.
on the pretty lady over here, in behind you.
Yeah, she's reporter. Yeah, television reporter. And I came to this house at least 2 or 3 times, and she's a professional politician, see the out, and she contribute a lot to the community. So I hope that you guys can help her and to win the race. Okay.
So, they are my parents, about my dad. I just want to introduce you.
Even though she's not Vietnamese, but she contribute to the community a lot. Not than one day, 1 year, but as I know, around 20 years.
Crime first. I'll just make some opening comments, and then if people want to ask questions, and then housing, and then cleaning up, because I think they're all kind of related. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me just make a couple of observations.
I just want to, okay, so, do I need to do the translations? I just want to.
Tôi con read that thing.
Cần để mình không dùng sử dụng.
Đây là cần tiếng Việt, đại tiếng Việt cần phải có người Việt Nam. Đó là cái thứ nhất. Cái thứ hai, đây là những cái phóng viên chuyên nghiệp đến đây để phỏng vấn bà, chứ không phải là tụi tôi đến đây để mà ủng hộ bà, đúng không? Đã là phóng viên thì mình phải đứng một cái trung lập để mình cái tiếng nói của mình nó chắc hơn. Cái thứ hai nữa đó là những câu hỏi mà tụi này hỏi đó là những câu hỏi của cộng đồng muốn hỏi trong cuộc bầu cử này.
Yeah, so he just want to say that because he's from media, he has to be like neutral, right? He will ask a question about whatever the community question is about. It's not like from dumb individually, it's from the community. And he wants to have it translated to the Vietnamese because this is the Vietnamese.
Because a lot of Vietnamese people they watching the video. If you speak in only English, they don't understand.
No, I understand.
They need to translate.
Yeah,
It's
thank
translate.
you. Yeah, thank you. Chú không biết.
Okay.
Ok, bây giờ bà nói trước hay là mình
Do
chưa
you want
hỏi?
to ask them?
Để bà nói trước không?
Summary your project,
Yeah.
and after that with question.
Okay.
Yeah.
So first of all, San Jose used to be the safest big city in the nation when I was on the city council. And our response times when there was a 911 call has doubled from the early 2000s to now. And we have less police officers than we did when I was on the council. And so the most important thing that cities are supposed to provide is an environment of safety. So there are 4 things that I want to focus on. First, we absolutely need to hire more police officers. Second, we need to hire the best and the brightest. When San Jose used to have a job opening, like they would say we need 50 officers, you would get 5,000 applications. If people wanted to come here, that does not happen anymore.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. And then we need to make sure that are you looking for a pen and paper?
Yes.
Oh, sorry. Ask Brian. But then the other thing is we need to hire people who are not sworn officers to help. So as an example, we need more dispatchers. We need public safety officers that can take reports but aren't necessarily the ones doing the
Community
investigations.
workers.
Yeah, the community workers. And we need to hire more mental health workers to do that partnership with the city of San Jose so that when we're going to a call for service when someone's mentally ill, we have a clinician that can join them.
Also, like for the homeless, those people, they are, sometimes they don't have their personal papers anymore.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
So we need like community workers to go on the field and ask them
Are you looking
if
for paper?
Yeah, the paper that I print out, okay.
Yeah. Ah, there you go.
ask them if they need to get those. If they do, they want those, we can help them
Mm-hmm.
to provide that to them so they can get their benefits.
Well,
Like a VA or welfare or Medicare.
we actually do that now.
Mhm.
Where we don't do it enough, where we don't have enough collaboration, I think, is with the DMV.
Mhm.
But we do assist them now in getting that paperwork so that we can get their services.
Mhm.
But we need to do more with the DMV. And we also need to help people who need to register their cars or automobiles and get them, moving again.
Sometimes they don't have the social security
Mhm.
card, and they are, some of them they are VA, so,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good point.
because I used to work for social services, so whenever like I see all the people who ask for money, on the streets, I said, do you get a food stamp yet? Do you get welfare yet? Or do you know about those things?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to, I can, direct you. Yeah.
Thank you. Any questions about that?
So I will translate
Translate.
about
Oh.
whatever you said. Okay, I'll try my best to remember. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So thành phố San Jose á, là một thành phố lớn nhất và an toàn nhất trên toàn nước Mỹ trước đây. Nhưng mà bây giờ nó không có còn được như vậy nữa. Thành ra khi mà bà Cindy Chavez bà nói là nếu như mà bà trở thành thị trưởng San Jose á, thì bà sẽ cố gắng làm cho thành phố San Jose trở lại an toàn. Bà sẽ mướn thêm nhiều cảnh sát để có thể bảo vệ thành phố tốt hơn. And then the first thing you focus about is hire more police officer, and then the second thing is
I don't remember, but I think
Community worker.
yeah, I think it's announced like dispatchers and public safety officers.
yeah. Hồi xưa đó là khi mà mình gọi 911 á, là cái thời gian mà họ ứng phó với một cái trường hợp đó là rất là nhanh, là 911 sẽ tới liền. Nhưng mà bây giờ ở thời điểm hiện tại đó, khi mà mình gọi 911 á, là cái thời gian họ ứng phó rất là chậm. Và một trong những lý do là tại vì bây giờ rất là ít người nộp đơn để làm cái chức vụ đó, và tất cả những cái người mà bây giờ đang phone call cho cái 911 đó là họ phải làm overtime rất là nhiều, họ phải làm quá giờ và họ rất là mệt mỏi. Thành ra là bà muốn là khi mà bà trở thành thị trưởng là bà sẽ cố gắng nói mọi người, vận động mọi người là hãy nộp đơn để vào thành phố làm việc. Không chỉ là một sát dân nào đó làm việc mà là tất cả sát dân, tại vì nhân viên cho thành phố hoặc là nhân viên cho chính phủ, nên là những người nhân viên có thể nói được nhiều ngôn ngữ khác nhau để có thể giúp đỡ cho cộng đồng phát tốt hơn.
Dispatcher.
Dispatcher.
Yeah, they're the ones who pick up the calls.
Dạ đúng rồi.
Yeah.
Là cái
911 dispatcher.
Dạ. Dạ.
Any questions about public safety?
Just okay.
Okay, so let's talk about homelessness, if we can. And I want to start by giving you one piece of background that I think most people think is shocking. In San Jose or Santa Clara County, since 2015, from 2015 to 2020, or I'm sorry, to 2020, we have housed 14,000 homeless people who were living on the streets. We got them into permanent housing, not shelters, not temporary housing, but permanent housing. Many of them in permanent supportive housing, which means that they could be very mentally ill or have an addiction to drug and alcohol, and we provide services for them. Over a 3-year period of time, even very high need people are staying housed at a 90% rate. That is remarkable. What that means is that we actually know how to provide services to people who are most in need in our community. Let me stop there. And
Yeah. Sau từ năm 2015 cho đến năm 2022 đó thì chính phủ của mình, quận hạt của mình đã tạo ra hơn 14.000 nhà ở để giúp cho hơn 14.000 người có thể có được nhà ở permanent, có nghĩa là lâu dài. Họ không cần phải ở vô trong những cái chỗ tạm trú nữa. Và những cái người này là những cái người cần nhà ở nhất, bởi vì họ phải ra ở ngoài đường, giống như homeless á, là họ ở ngoài đường, họ không có nhà và họ có những cái bệnh, ví dụ như là họ bị mental health, là bị bệnh tâm trí, hoặc là họ bị nghiện ngập. Thì khi mà họ được vô trong những cái nhà ở lâu dài này đó, là sẽ có những cái dịch vụ để hỗ trợ cho họ, để họ có thể khỏi bệnh và họ có thể trở lại cuộc sống bình thường.
So to house somebody, or to address a person who's homeless on the streets, we spend $60,000 a year, even if they're not housed, jail, ambulance, hospital. When we house somebody who's very high need, we spend closer to $40,000 a year. And then one other piece to that is that to keep someone from becoming homeless, we spend $5,000 a year. So we want to house people permanently, and we want to keep them from becoming homeless in the first place.
Yeah, so bà nói là để mà chi trả cho một cái người mà ở ngoài đường đó, tại vì khi mà họ không có nhà thì cái cơ hội mà họ sẽ vào nhà tù nè, hoặc là họ sẽ đi vào bệnh viện cũng không có ai chi trả, hoặc là khi mà họ đi cấp cứu.
Cái nguy cơ cũng phải cơ hội vào tù, cái nguy cơ.
Cái nguy cơ. Okay. Cái nguy cơ mà họ vào tù, hoặc là họ vào bệnh viện, hoặc là họ phải chữa trị trong những trường hợp khẩn cấp là rất là cao, và có thể có thể tiêu tốn lên đến 60.000 một năm. Nhưng mà nếu như mà mình cho họ một cái nhà ở lâu dài đó, là mình chỉ tiêu tốn là 40.000 một năm mà thôi. Cái việc mà mình giống như là mình không có để cho cái trường hợp mà họ không còn nhà, không có nhà để ở nữa đó, là mình chỉ cần đưa cho họ giống như là 5.000 thì có thể giúp cho họ không có trở thành homeless, không có trở thành người không có nhà.
So what that means that the city needs to work closely with the state and federal government to be able to place people in housing now that's available, because there is some, build more affordable housing, and then build interim housing so we don't have people on the street decompensating to the degree that then they can't be helped, right? So we have to prevent people from becoming homeless in the first place. If we can do that, we're going to take the homeless problem, and the way I think about it is like an accordion, where we're just going to slowly be able to address it in a more holistic way.
Yeah. Và để mà làm được cái điều đó thì không những thành phố mà cả tiểu bang cũng như là liên bang cần phải kết hợp với nhau, cần phải làm việc cùng với nhau để có thể xây dựng thêm những cái nhà ở lâu dài, hoặc là những cái nhà ở tạm thời, và giúp nhiều cái trường hợp mà mình để mình đừng có để cho họ trở thành homeless. Tại vì khi mà họ trở thành homeless rồi đó thì rất là khó và tiêu tốn rất là nhiều. Nhưng mà để mà mình xây dựng những cái nhà ở lâu dài và tạm thời đó thì sẽ giúp đỡ hơn được nhiều cho cộng đồng.
Why they like to stay along the freeways? I see in Washington too. Yeah.
Because that land is owned by the federal government and the federal government or the state, depending, and they don't clean it up, and they're not moved on very quickly. Now, one challenge we see here, you talked about the number of people being hit by cars. A high percentage of people here who are being struck by automobiles are homeless. And I think part of the reason for that is exactly because of where they're staying. So we've got to work more closely with Caltrans and other agencies that own that land to make sure we don't have people in areas that are unsafe. And I think that would drop the number of people
The
hit by
exit
cars.
at Tully 101. Yeah.
Yeah. Thì cái câu hỏi của cô là tại sao những cái người homeless, những người không nhà, họ lại ở xung quanh mấy cái vùng ven của freeway. Thì cô nói là tại vì những cái đất đó là của
liên bang,
và tiểu bang thì họ không có giống như là họ không có đưa ra những cái
Can
hành
thiệp
động,
kịp thời.
đúng rồi, những cái can thiệp kịp thời để mà họ dọn những cái chỗ đó, thành ra là mình vẫn có những người homeless ở những cái nơi đó, và mình có rất là nhiều cái tai nạn xảy ra. Và bà nói là so there are many accidents.
Well, they were getting hit by cars.
Yeah.
In part because I think they're crossing from, blind spots and on those curves. So we clearly need to make sure that people aren't living that close to busy intersections.
Yeah.
So the city doesn't have any authority on those people who live, like a Story and 101?
It depends on believe it or not, it actually depends on the property owner. So what we're doing, the county, in partnership with the city, is that the county owns and operates the expressways. But you have homeless folks living along those expressways and walking across the expressways. And so we're working with the city so that we have a contract with them that will allow the city both to clean up the trash along the expressways, number one, but number two, move encampments that are too close to those intersections where we see people, and it's not even intersections actually, sometimes it's right in the middle where people are housed right along an expressway and they're going across the expressway back and forth. So each jurisdiction has to learn how to work together. The other thing I'll just mention, this is way too long, but I'll just say this, is that the county is also doing a similar agreement with the water district so that the water district can go on county property and we can go on the water district property so that we're able to, again, keep them clean and safe.
You can say like when on Story exit to 101, a group of people stay there, and I saw once in a while people, I don't know if from the county or what, they chase them away so they can clean it up, all the garbage there. And later on, maybe 10, 50 days later, they go back there again.
Or relocate to somewhere else.
But
Right.
they
And that's
still,
actually part
yeah.
of the problem, because what we need to actually do is make sure that the approaches we're taking are ones that don't, that we, frankly, that's why we have to house people, because otherwise you're just moving them from one place to another. But the fact of the matter is there are some places that are just too unsafe.
Yeah.
Do you know that Burnell, they have some housing there, but nobody wants to go there and stay.
No, it's occupied.
Occupy all of them?
You're talking about the interim housing that's out there? Yeah, I just went out to it to see it.
Yeah, tại vì cái vấn đề mà homeless hiện giờ là tại vì mình có rất là nhiều homeless mà cái nhà ở tạm thời hoặc là cái nhà ở mà lâu dài đó thì mình vẫn chưa xây dựng đầy đủ, thành ra là mình vẫn còn đang trong quá trình xây dựng đó cô. Và bà nói là tất cả những cái người homeless mà họ ở những cái vùng ven của cái đường cao tốc đó, thì đó là lý do tại sao bà nói là tiểu bang, liên bang và những cái chính quyền giống như quận hạt hoặc là thành phố họ phải cần làm việc rất là gần gũi với nhau để họ có thể đưa ra những cái phương án thích hợp để có thể giải quyết cái vấn đề này. Và trước hết đó là mình phải giống như là mình clean up, là mình phải làm sạch sẽ những cái rác ở xung quanh đó và mình sẽ giúp họ đi vào những cái nơi nhà ở tạm thời. Yeah.
Was there another topic that we should cover? Oh, affordable housing. Should we talk about that? So, so one challenge we have here, and this is true in the state of California, for years and years, the state did not require local governments to build affordable housing. So what happened is that we built a lot of luxury housing, and the affordable housing that was built actually here in our community was really built in the 50s and 60s, and that's what got built on the east side of San Jose. So the city of San Jose planned to have what they referred to as worker housing, which was this lower cost housing that is really right around Reed Hillview Airport in that area, that's the east of San Jose. But for many, many years, we haven't built much of that kind of housing. And so what happens is, most of the housing that's being built is very high end and very expensive. As an example, one of the developments downtown that is I think they are 1 or 2 bedrooms, 1.5 baths. They're renting right now for about $3,500 a month. And they're very small. And I don't mean that, like, I just mean you couldn't put a family in there. And
Is it a single house or a condo?
these are apartments. These are condos, condominiums, or apartments. So I say that because one of what it's going to require is for us to make sure that we're building housing at every affordability rate. Housing for seniors, for example, because we want to make sure that seniors can stay living here. We want family housing for caregivers. We want housing for people who work at grocery stores. We need housing for everybody. There are 2 ways that I think we can really aggressively do that. One, the city of San Jose has got to make it easier for people to get through the permitting process. Planning, building, and code enforcement, it takes a long time, it's very complicated, and it's very expensive. One of the reasons for that is they have a 25% vacancy rate in their planning department. So we need to hire people, pay them well, invest in that part of the organization, because it's not only the way to get housing built, it's a way to get small businesses moving too, because they have to go through that same planning, building, and code enforcement process. So that's kind of the first thing. The second thing is that we've got to be aggressive with the state and local governments to make sure that as money becomes available, we are building affordable housing as quickly as we can. Measure A, the housing bond that many of us voted for in this community, that $950 million bond, has allowed us to get 4,400 units in the pipeline right now. So we're moving very fast, but we need to move faster.
And what is the location of that?
Oh, they're all over. We have 8 cities. Right now, I think we're at 41 projects, 41 different housing developments, just from that one pot of money. But there's tax credits. Inflation is a global issue, and I don't think it's I don't think it's worse in San Jose. I think it's just bad all over, inflation. But I think you raise a really excellent point, which is this. Like in the early 70s, minimum wage kept up with the cost of living. And if you were making a minimum wage job or even working full time, you could afford to live in a house. Here now, you have to work 24/7 if you have a minimum wage job to barely survive here. And in fact, you really can't survive on minimum wage. So one problem is that one opportunity I think we have at a local level is to really help people get into jobs that pay a living wage instead of a minimum wage. And that we do through the planning, building, and code enforcement. We've got to move people's projects forward so they can employ people. That's really one of the most important things I think we could do at a local level to address what's happening at a national and international level.
One of the questions I hear from the public about the Vietnamese community is that some people worry about that, the city will be dominated by union.
Mm-hmm.
If you get elected, more union members in the city than other group. And it's imbalance for the city. And, other group, they don't favor about that. So what do you think about that?
So what unions provide is for people to have a voice on the job, health insurance, and fair wages and safe working conditions. So what's important about that is there are some sectors and workers that want to be in a union. I support that. There are other workers that don't want to be in a union. I support that. What's most important to me is that people are safe on the job, they're paid fairly for a fair day's of work, and that they have benefits.
But the fees are high too. The membership fees.
But those are the union and the people who are in the union decide that. Nobody else, not the public sector. That's not an outside decision. That's the union's decision with its members.
And I request them to give me an example for that. They told us that, look at the Vietnamese center. On the company to build the center are, union related, not independent. So the cost is really high. If we can hire equal and fair opportunity for other group, we can hire other group to compete with the union companies. The cost may be much less than the cost we are paying. So who pay for the cost? The people will pay for the cost. So they have some worry about that. More union members in the city hall. So what do you think?
So, any public project has to pay prevailing wages. So, what that means is that whether they were union or not, they had a wage standard.
Yeah,
So I don't think that's true,
yeah.
what I think you were told. Now, that said, let me just make a point. We want people to get paid enough to live in the community they're working in.
Yeah.
So having a prevailing wage is very important. It's like having a minimum wage. We wouldn't want to live in a community, I wouldn't, where that wage is so low that we just have more homeless people. That just doesn't make sense to me at all.
Yeah.
So that's why we
Okay.
have temporary homeless, because they cannot pay for the rent.
To some people.
Yeah.
Yeah, let her translate.
Oh, sorry. That's a lot of conversation.
Yeah, that's a lot of conversation about. Okay, so I will starting from the inflation. So mình nói là tại vì cái tình hình lạm phát hiện nay đó là nó rất là cao, bởi vì cho nên vì vậy đó cái giá cả nó tăng cao, tiền xăng, tiền đồ ăn, tiền mướn nhà nó tăng rất là cao, thì làm sao để bà có thể giúp được những cái việc này nó giảm xuống. Thì bà mới nói là cái việc tình hình lạm phát đó là cái này là một cái vấn đề trên toàn cầu, nó không phải chỉ riêng gì về thành phố San Jose mà ở đâu cũng vậy. Nhưng mà mình làm sao để có thể giúp được, như là một cái chính quyền địa phương đó, thì mình làm sao để giúp được cái tình hình này. Thì bà mới nói về là trong những năm 70 đó thì mình cái minimum wage đó, của mình đó, một người mà làm cái minimum wage thì họ vẫn có đủ khả năng để trả cái tiền nhà. Tuy nhiên ở thời điểm hiện tại á, thì cái mức sống của mình nó quá cao so với cái mức trả mà của tiền lương tối thiểu. Thành ra có rất là nhiều người phải không có thể nào trả tiền nhà, cho nên họ mới phải trở thành homeless và họ không có nhà để ở. Và trong khi đó những cái người có thể là họ làm 24/7 luôn, nhưng mà làm ở cái mức lương tối thiểu thì họ vẫn không thể trả tiền nhà. Thì
Are you still on inflation?
yeah, inflation. Yes. Thì bởi vậy mình là một cái chính quyền địa phương á, thì mình muốn đào tạo ra những cái người đó, hoặc là đưa ra những cái công việc là đưa ra cái mức lương là trả theo cái mức sống của cái nơi đó, chứ không có phải là trả bằng cái lương tối thiểu nữa. Thì bà sẽ cố gắng phải làm cái điều đó. Yes.
Just one more thing on inflation, and I'm really glad you raised it. The other problem is the city has to move permits and tenant improvements and all of that much faster, because one of the challenges, as you know, with inflation is the longer the time takes for the process, the higher the inflation is.
Yeah. Thì bà có nói thêm một câu đó là tại vì cái thủ tục để xin cái giấy phép về nhà ở đó nó quá phức tạp, và nếu như mà cái quá trình đó nó càng kéo dài đó, thì cái tình hình lạm phát nó càng trở nên nghiêm trọng hơn, thì nó không có giúp đỡ được gì hết. Thành ra là mình phải làm cho cái quá trình đó nó nhanh hơn, càng nhanh càng tốt cho cộng đồng.
As the mayor, okay, how you can help? Look like reduce staff, make the people have more income, and then the reason they can have more money to spend. Can you do that?
Do what?
Reduce staff, city
Oh,
staff.
reduce taxes?
South is the highest tax.
Shelter.
Yeah, I mean,
A lot of
Maybe
taxes.
nearly no way.
Yeah.
I mean, I think part of the
Ok, lát
challenge
nhiều cho
there.
em hỏi một xíu nha.
One challenge I think we have there is that we vote for all of these taxes, and what I would say that one of the most important things that we need to do is actually broaden the tax base by bringing more businesses here. Because if we don't do that, I think it will stay a high tax environment with not as much return for the community. which is why we need to attract more businesses.
Để mà-
Chú hỏi là một thị trưởng thì bà làm như thế nào để có thể làm giảm cái tiền thuế xuống, tại vì tiền thuế bây giờ nó quá cao. Thì bà mới nói là bà sẽ cố gắng mang nhiều cái những cái business nhỏ đi vào đây để thành lập những cái business rồi tạo thêm job. Thì như vậy đó thì tại vì cái tiền thuế thì mình không thể nào mà mình giảm xuống được, nhưng mà mình có thể làm theo một cái cách khác để cho mình giúp cải thiện cái vấn đề đó.
Just if I could give one example, is that for manufacturing in particular, it brings a lot more property tax than almost any other kind of business we could attract.
Yeah. Thì bà nói là những cái nhà máy sản xuất đó thì họ tạo ra những cái property tax là thuế nhà đất. Đó, thành ra là mình lấy tiền những cái đó để mình phục vụ cho cộng đồng.
Okay.
Ok, I have a question. Ok, cái câu hỏi thứ nhất của chú á là nếu bả là thị trưởng thì bà sẽ giúp được cái gì cho những cái người mà business, người gốc thiểu số?
Yeah. So as a mayor, how can you support the Vietnamese community, like the small business
Not only the Vietnamese, but
Yeah.
also the ethnic
and
people.
the ethnic?
Small businesses.
Yeah, small business.
One thing that I don't think we do enough of is outreach to the community to let them know when there are public contracts that are available. And so as an example, whether it's the county, the city, a school district, or the water district, they all procure either goods and services, janitorial services, paper products, medicine, I mean, catering, printing, and our communities, even the communities that live here, the small businesses, don't always know about it. So doing very robust outreach with a goal for making sure those dollars, or at least a percentage of them, are spent locally, and that's a way to get all of our small businesses, ethnic and non-ethnic, but all of those small businesses to have access. Just as an example, the county has an $11 billion budget this year. $11 billion. About almost a third of that is spent in contracts. That is an opportunity for businesses all over our region and in our city.
Cái câu hỏi thứ hai nữa đó là nếu bả là thị trưởng thì những cái khu vực đông business của người Việt á ở tại cái thành phố San Jose á thì cái vấn đề trật tự an ninh với lại cái vấn đề mà trộm cướp á, bà có một cái kế hoạch như thế nào không?
Yeah, so as a mayor, for the public safety for the Vietnamese community, for example, like the area that have like many Vietnamese business, how can you improve the public safety for those areas? Do you have any plan for that?
So one of the tools that we have in it is that, let me stop myself. Most important, we need to hire more police officers, and I want to encourage our community to let all of our children who are interested in being police officers be police officers. Because what you get with that is you get people who speak Vietnamese, Spanish, Cantonese, or people who've lived here and understand the culture very well. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that we have to do a better job of really engaging the businesses in prevention as well, so that we're really working together on having eyes on the street and cameras, and that prevention department at the city is available to work with people, but they have to be able to do it in language, right, and in culture. So that's the second thing. But the third thing, and probably I think the most important, is deepening our partnership with a program called Community Prosecutors. And those community prosecutors can assist businesses both and with prevention in hardening their businesses to be protective, but being very aggressive and assertive in finding the people who are doing the breaking in and arresting them. And that means that the police and the prosecutors and the community have to work really closely together, which means everybody has to trust each other and be willing to work together.
Còn cái câu hỏi thứ ba của chú luôn là tức là cái xác suất bả là thị trưởng rất là cao. Thì cái điều mà cộng đồng người Mỹ gốc Việt lo lắng, hoặc là cộng đồng thiểu số lo lắng là ở trên các thành phố San Jose tới 6-7 người nghị viên gốc Mỹ Latin. Thì nếu bả là thị trưởng nữa đó, thì cái quyền lực của cái nhóm những người thiểu số mà trong đó có Việt Nam, những cái quyền lợi đó, thì nó có người ta sợ ảnh hưởng, thì theo bả giải thích như thế nào với những người lo sợ như vậy?
Yeah, so he said that you have a high chance to become a mayor of the city of San Jose, but then as of right now, the county, the council member for the city of San Jose is all Latino, and then if you become the mayor, we don't have any representative of the Vietnamese inside the city. So how can you explain that to the Vietnamese community to just convince them that if they vote for you, they support you, you will always support the Vietnamese community?
Because I always have.
And do you have any?
I mean, that's the answer. I always have.
Yeah.
That won't change.
Dạ, bà nói là bà luôn luôn ủng hộ cộng đồng Việt Nam, và tất cả những cái gì mà bà làm cho cộng đồng Việt Nam từ trước đến nay đã chứng minh được cái điều đó.
I have a 30-year history of working with the Vietnamese American community.
Bà đã làm việc với cộng đồng Việt Nam rất là lâu rồi, 30 năm.
But one thing I would say, I think just for all of you, is that there's an 11-member council, right? 5 members are Latino, and I was really trying to remember what everybody else is there. And I think it's what the question that I think is really important to answer is, how do we have a council that reflects the community? And for me, you know, I'm on the board of supervisors, and you know, I have played a leadership role in expanding services to the Vietnamese community, and I am a Latina, and so my bigger question is, how do we have more people who reflect the community? And second of all, how do we hold each other accountable for taking care of our entire community, not one part of the community, our entire community? That's our job as leaders. That's your job as leaders too, right? You're both looking out for the Vietnamese community, but you're looking out for your neighbors. You're looking out for the community as a whole, and that's what I want to see in our elected officials. So anyway, there are 11 members. It's not all Latino. I just want to make sure that that doesn't get conveyed that way.
Okay,
Is your husband going to stump me?
I heard Mr. Mahan. He opposed about the idea of the city of San Jose. They plan the illegal person has the right to vote. What do you think about your opinion? The second thing, I don't know about it, very hot issue now is the abortion. How about your opinion about that?
So, starting with the whether or not people who are undocumented can vote, I do not support having the undocumented community vote, voting. I do think that what we should be thinking about is whether or not people who have served in the armed forces who are undocumented have an opportunity to vote. I personally think that we need to make sure that people who serve in our armed forces are have the opportunity to become citizens. And I will also say to everybody, this is really important, is that our immigration system is so broken in our country that part of the reason you hear people making requests like wanting to vote is that the systems are so broken, it takes so long, it's very confusing, it's very expensive, and we need to fix all of that. But I do not believe that if you're undocumented, you should have the opportunity to vote. I do not refer to undocumented people as illegal, because I think that term conveys a level of negativity that I don't think is earned either.
Yeah.
Your second question about abortion. I believe that every person should have the opportunity to determine between them and their doctor, their health. I have served on the board of Planned Parenthood, both locally and nationally. I absolutely believe in a woman's right to determine what happens to her own body and to plan for her family. one of the things that concerns me most about the debate right now is that many states that have laws outlawing abortion do not have carve-outs for victims of sexual assault or victims of incest. And I think that is a very unfair way to treat women.
I believe they will have some exceptions about that.
They don't. I can show you the laws. They don't. Some do, and I think what Texas is doing by making it, by asking people to turn each other in is not the way you build communities and not the way you build trust.
Okay.
But, excuse me,
Do you want to check? Can she translate first?
Dạ, thì cái thứ nhất đó là bà nói về cái vấn đề những người không có giấy tờ ở tại Mỹ. Thì những người không có giấy tờ đó đã không có muốn gọi họ là illegal, là không hợp pháp. Bởi vì cái từ đó nó rất là negative, là
nhạy cảm.
Dạ, nó rất là nhạy cảm và nó rất là giống như tiêu cực. Thì
tiêu
bà không
cực
muốn
nhiều
dùng, bà không muốn dùng cái từ đó, và bà không có ủng hộ cái việc mà những người không có giấy tờ có thể đi bầu cử, bởi vì cái hệ thống bầu cử ở mình đó, nó cũng đòi hỏi nhiều cái giấy tờ, và cái hệ thống dành cho người nhập cư đó nó cũng rất là phức tạp. Thành ra là bà không có ủng hộ cái điều đó. Và về vấn đề phá thai là một cái vấn đề rất là mọi người cộng đồng quan tâm ở thời điểm hiện nay. Thì bà nói là bà tin rằng một người phụ nữ nên có cơ hội quyết định về cái cuộc đời của họ, về cái cơ thể của họ, về sức khỏe của họ. Và cái tranh cãi hiện nay đó, cái tranh cãi hiện nay mình có đó, giống như tại bang Texas họ đưa ra cái luật là cấm phá thai, thì cái điều đó bà không đồng ý, bởi vì nó tạo ra nhiều cái vấn đề xung quanh về việc sự tin tưởng của người dân dành cho chính phủ, hoặc là cái điều đó sẽ gây ảnh hưởng rất là lớn đối với những cái người nạn nhân, ví dụ như bị xâm phạm tình dục, họ sẽ không biết làm như thế nào. Và giống như hiện nay con sẽ thêm nhiều ý, là giống như là ở bên tiểu bang Texas đó, họ nói là có một cái người có một cái văn phòng họ chuyên nhận những cái cuộc gọi về những cái việc giống như là tôi lỡ có thai rồi thì phải làm sao, những cái em bé hoặc là những cái em high school, hoặc là thì bây giờ trước khi mà cái luật đó đưa ra đó thì có rất là nhiều cuộc gọi vô, nhưng mà sau khi cái luật đó đưa ra đó thì ít cuộc gọi lại bởi vì họ không cảm thấy an toàn để gọi vào để được xin ý kiến nữa, chứ không phải là ít cuộc gọi vào bởi vì không có cái tình trạng đó xảy ra. Thì con nghĩ là nếu mà mình cấm cái việc mà phá thai đó, thì cái việc cấm đó không phải là mình cấm không cho phá thai, mà là mình cấm phá thai an toàn. Mình chỉ là mình cấm những cái clinic mở ra để đưa ra những cái dịch vụ phá thai an toàn cho người phụ nữ, chứ phá thai mình không thể nào mình cấm được, chỉ là mình bớt đi những cái clinic phá thai an toàn cho người phụ nữ. Dạ đúng rồi.
Also, when I was working, I had a client, and she said she just aborted, and I said do you know?
Thank you.
Do you know 7 abortions? And she's only 27, 28. She got 7 abortions. And I said, do you know about birth control? And she told me abortion is my birth control.
That's terrible.
Yeah. So, we may teach our kids at school about birth control so they don't get pregnant when they are minor, or do something about the birth control. I'd rather the government give them the birth control free than, how do you say it? Take them to the clinic to have free abortions.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. In fact, I would say that a lot of the reason that I got involved with Planned Parenthood in the first place was exactly around education, because I think, you know, and I will say some of the laws that are being passed in other states not only don't allow for abortion, they don't allow for education in the schools on birth control or anything else. I mean, this is a very, I mean, you know, I say this as somebody who's a Catholic too. Bye, thank you. Drive carefully. You know, is that I think prevention is always better. Prevention is always better. And you know, one other thing I'll just add that the county, because of work I've done, is we've also invested a lot more money in education in schools around sexual assault prevention and violence prevention between couples, so that we can nip it in the bud, because what we're seeing is it's starting in high school.
Dạ, thì bà nói là bà đồng ý với cô là tất nhiên là cái vấn đề giáo dục về cái
người thai.
Dạ, cái người thai là rất là quan trọng, và mình luôn luôn đi đôi với cái đó. Nó không phải là giống như là phá thai là cái việc mà người ta đưa ra một cách hoàn toàn miễn phí, mà là nó là về vấn đề là người phụ nữ có quyền được quyết định cái cơ thể của họ và chăm sóc họ sau khi mà họ phá thai xong, và chăm sóc cái sức khỏe của họ. Và đương nhiên cái Planned Parenthood đó, bà là một thành viên trong cái hội đồng quản trị, thì bà luôn luôn đề cao cái việc là giáo dục các em từ high school. Cái luật mà họ đưa ra đó là họ không có cho giáo dục, họ cũng không cho phá thai, họ không có đưa ra bất kỳ gì. Họ nói là cấm, chứ họ không có đưa ra bất kỳ một cái giải pháp nào hết. Thành ra là bà nói là bà sẽ đi cùng với cộng đồng để bà đưa ra những cái giáo dục thích hợp, và bà đưa ra những cái chăm sóc sức khỏe thích hợp cho người phụ nữ.
Some issue we are talking about is nationwide issue. I think that we got to be back to the city issue. The city issue, the cleanliness, job, homelessness. We build the city back to the city as we knew it in the city in the 70s, 70s, 80s.
I know.
If you bring the city back to that time, you are successful enough.
Well, you know,
And so
I
big
think we can
issue,
do it.
the
We
U.S.,
can do it.
our country, national issue, nationwide issue, we cannot deal on the level of the city. Okay.
But still, it's our issue.
Your opinion. Opinion.
Yeah.
You can do about your
it's
opinion.
our issues.
And I do think that, you know, one point that you're raising that I think is very powerful, that I just want to acknowledge, is that the country is so divided up here on every issue, right? Republican, Democrat, choice, anti-pro, whatever, pro-life, whatever you want to title it.
Yeah.
We have to figure out how to get people together at a local level to clean the city up, to work together. And you're exactly right, because one thing I do remember, if I go back in time, is that we had strong neighborhood associations. We had a lot of volunteers. So when we were cleaning up the city, we were cleaning up the city, like all of us, right? And now it feels like some people don't think it's their problem. You know, it's not my job, or it's very, so we gotta get people engaged again, I guess is my point.
You know why?
If you have a chance to grade, the success and failure of Sam Ricardo, our mayor, what grade you will give him?
I already told you, he is not done with his homework yet.
Yeah.
But let me.
I'm so close to him.
Yeah.
But I told him that whenever I see him, I told him that you fail your job. What we need you is not the way you are doing right now.
Well, I think part of it, again, this is just my opinion about where we are, but you know what I think part of the challenge really is that when we look at problems, if you don't say, like if you don't think a lot about what the problem is and you try to solve it, you miss, right? And as I think about like having a clean city, when we were kids and when you all first arrived, the federal government and the state had this huge education program about litter.
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Mhm.
And as you all were coming here and probably learning how to speak English, there was all this education about don't litter, here's what it does to rivers, here's what it does to the community. Now you don't hear any of that,
Yeah.
right? And so part of it is that we have to have a culture that says we care for our community and we care for each other.
Yeah. That's it. Yeah.
And we don't have that now.
Maybe because-
just narrow down some top priority we got to do for the city.
Public
So,
safety,
yeah, public safety,
homelessness,
homelessness,
housing,
housing. If you
clean it
did
up,
that,
clean it up,
if you did that, you are successful
No,
in
no,
that.
no.
clean it up.
Oh, I told you, I asked you the question of portion because I think you had a long way to go. You will be in the future, you are congressman, congresswoman.
No,
Or senator, I don't know, I take
Governor.
governor, something like that.
no,
That's the reason
no.
you
I
can know.
only want to be mayor. And I'm gonna tell you why.
Turn around.
Step by step.
But here's the other reason. If the only thing you're worried about while you're mayor is being the best mayor you can and not worried about other things, you are gonna do a good job. If you think about what you're gonna be next, you can't dig in. You can't commit yourself 1,000% to doing the best job you can.
Yeah, that's it. That's good idea.
And that's why I'm not, that really,
That's really step by step.
Okay,
You know, like some politician, I told them, I saw them do things, and I said that they are NATO, NATO. No action, talk only.
ah! Can I steal that from you?
Yeah,
okay.
you can get that. You know, like action, no
Yeah.
talk.
Yeah, no, I like to do things. I'm, I would never run for office if I wasn't good at it. And I'm
Yeah.
very good at it.
And
I get
and
stuff
you
done.
prove it.